YouTube comments from a video titled, Watch, the most compelling argument against tech in schools, Sophie Winkleman. Part 23.
At Malcolm 6897 wrote,
The royals palm their kids off on nannies and boarding schools. Take their kids to shoot animals. Plaster their photos on social media like they are a commodity. And find it acceptable to bleed the country of massive amounts of money to fund holidays to mystique. While state school kids face increasing amounts of poverty to pay for the farce or royalty. A Nepo baby actress with zero qualifications, relevant career experience, or little experience of raising kids in the real world, doesn't get to lecture anyone about anything.
At Adventure Awaits 1111 wrote,
350 this right here. And virtual learning introduced during the pandemic was a huge factor. They are being taught to be on a screen. This continued after classroom learning came back. Please take time to think about this issue facing our children today. They deserve to have life, not be programmed from a screen.
At Malcolm 6897 wrote,
Nepo baby from Peep Show feels qualified to lecture the world in child development. That stuff requires qualifications and experience, you know. But don't let that stop Big Sue's. Being an actress married into aristocracy apparently makes these pompous ramblings worthy of a podium. I'm sure her nanny doesn't let her kids use a phone. Congrats. Now how about the royal family give back the pay rise they receive? While the elderly, sick, and disabled are dying to pay for it. This person of all people doesn't get to lecture anyone about civilized behavior. Delusional, pompous, and Vegas preaching.
At Anna's Doc wrote,
WHY. Because by using AI and by gluing kids to a screen, you prevent them from becoming responsible citizens, but rather willful serfs. Self-thinking in the end is dangerous to any form of totalitarianism.
At Stevie B227 wrote,
One of the most compelling talks so far. We can all take a note from this to put down our devices and interact with those around us instead.
At KYKS 6771 wrote,
And group engagements are more than relevant. Don't need to and shouldn't be the constant theme. Content, its delivery as well as students' experience is the key takeaway for education. Teachers' dedication and knowing what to do is the major. We need to do more on eyesight concerns. A filtered split screens wall with students and their keyboards at a distance in specific tech-oriented scheduled context is one way. The weight of technology pads, robo-Lego. Within individual and peer friction age-appropriate, teamwork, competition, timelines, sports. Need continuous feedback and revisits amongst teachers, parents, students and EdTech providers. A 10 to 12-year-old may be subject to what previously was a 17 to 18-year privilege.
Pilgrim Mum wrote,
The problem with the under 16 media ban bill in Australia is that they could still access Pornhub and the other sites. Also, the worst thing is they sneakily snuck in digital ID, which will be enforced upon everyone over 16 to access the internet.
At Lisa GSD wrote,
It amazes me that these words of utter real in-our-face truth has still not reached some who insist on allowing their small children to become totally addicted to screens. Unbelievable.
At Colgrandad 5430 wrote,
Couldn't agree more with this assessment. Other week I was writing out a detailed note. One of my granddaughters excitedly said, "Wow, you know cursive." I looked at her strangely and asked about it in her school. She said they don't learn it anymore. Shocking to me. I didn't realize that literally writing wasn't being taught. We need to change this.
At Bicer Tidros 6992 wrote,
Before she said,
They were on dating apps. I blurted dating apps and laughed when she said the same. It is so sad how oblivious we have become to our surroundings and people. Just like this beautiful lady said, I also feel very blessed not to be overtaken by this disease. I thank God for all that He has blessed us, even technology, and now it is up to us how we consume things and putting healthy limits on all things.
At Ken 3279 wrote,
Aren't you the country that screams sexual harassment if a man looks at a woman in public for longer than 2 seconds? Socializing for men is a minefield in today's Western world. This is what you wanted.
At Markryman Hamilton wrote,
Tech as schools will enable today's kids to infiltrate the UFO culture to later kill them. UFOs are taking over the world, and we sit and stare at Trump news distracted. Get with the program and stop the UFOs.
At Jericho Awansi 8499 wrote,
Excellent speech against using tech in school. I would also love you to touch on creating business that spoils and harm the kids, such as beauty parlor, where they encourage young kids to do grooming such as massages, manicure, and pedicure at sea.
At Achilles Buchanan 2095 wrote,
There are many, many horrendous problems, of course, but tailoring an argument to fit one ideal is not evidence of good education and research either. Reading and writing, other than for scholars, clerics, and administrators, is a comparatively new development in society as well. What have we lost from the memorization and thought exercises taught by the Greek philosophers? Were medieval common people better off reading nature, husbandry, horticulture, and psychology purely through relationships and experience? The printing press is new as well, and within a few hundred years scholars were complaining that most of the books being produced were not worth the paper they were written and were causing addictions and wasted time. I agree that no school-age child should have a smartphone, and that so much of the doom scrolling on the internet is seriously impeding, and that technology should have a reduced and more balanced place in school and home life. However, Sophie Winkleman's model is in equal parts valid, naive, and unfounded. It is a statement of taste more than a verified vision of what shape life should take in our highly technological world as we work with technologies that are abused and abusive, yet also the means of great advancements and remedies for mankind.
At Roro 1212 wrote,
Bad for anyone. People are far less adept and even afraid of uncurated, real-world, messy, essential interactin'. It's an attack on broad-spectrum human intimacy. Words can't express how irresponsible almost everyone has been in adopting an obviously problematic and powerful technology. I hope the dam breaks soon. It's been a tragic car crash to have to live in. Net 2po in T0 needs to go.
At Chances 29 wrote,
On the other hand, electronic devices such as AAC devices for people with disabilities have been instrumental for those with autism and other developmental disabilities. Technology is great when used well.
At RobotRon 1236 wrote,
Them. The only reason Elon is even remotely succeeding with Doge is because of tech and people who learned it when they were young. The way that we talk about tech on the right is the same way the left talks about guns. Any parent who stops their children from interacting with technology is leaving them at a disadvantage. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean the rest of us should be punished for it. I legit tell this to leftists when talking about guns. It is the same exact thing. Also, the level of cognitive dissonance you need to post something like this on YouTube is pretty mind-blowing. All of the people watching this and clapping like seals in the comments section are literally using the same tech they claim to hate. Dumbest people on YouTube, and that's saying a yellow T. I knew something was up with that Oliver Anthony video. I like him, but he wouldn't have a career without tech, and yet he blames it for all of his problems? Direct your attention at something important. The Luddite tech bashing here is just a distraction.
At FFTT 9360 wrote,
I use AI and have a traditional education. It is shocking the success of the synergy between these two words. Without the latter, you would be an idiot with AI.
At Kariepu 6792 wrote,
I am a reading teacher in the US, and I see this all the time. It's very sad and frustrating. I try to use tech as little as possible, but to be honest, if I were going to teach completely tech-free, I would have to have 2 aides in my classroom to help me with scaffolding and instruction. I teach 7th and 8th grader with reading abilities ranging from kindergarten to 7th grade levels. I cannot differentiate that much when I have about 120 kids with 9 different reading levels, and they are all mixed together based on age. It just becomes too much with a class of 15 to 25 kids. How do you help the student who needs the intensive phonics instruction, as well as the student who need help with comprehension and academic vocabulary?
At Green Mountain Girl wrote,
American here. Was a classroom assistant as my first temporary job out of college from 2012 to 2014. I saw the writing on the wall back then. I remember being so put off by how much technology was used and how little teaching was actually done, and yet many American teachers feel they are being underpaid. Certainly not in my state. As a millennial, I remember vividly how cautious our schools were about integrating technology. We knew 20 years ago that this wasn't the best for our children, and they limited it. Sure, we had rolling televisions and would watch Bill Nye on a VHS tape occasionally, but we certainly weren't all individually on our own laptops or iPads all day. What's even more stunning is how often we talk about getting off our social medias and phones as adults, because we know it's bad for us. Yet, we're okay with our kids being in front of screens all day.
KDZQ50Q wrote,
I see an awesome opportunity for some to gain a great advantage looking to the future. By simply prioritizing the manual side of all aspects of life, the masses will never get it nor understand. But there are a decent amount of humans that resonate with this message. Unfortunately, everything being lamented here benefits the powers that be and further powers capitalism. It also gives already lazy humans by nature more pacification and escape. But for those who actually give a shit, there's an opportunity to create a tremendous advantage and potential to create a much more meaningful and rewarding life experience and environment. There is some lemonade to be made provided by these lemons.
At Red Set 11 wrote,
A very truthful speech, Miss Winkleman. My grandchildren had to have phones when they started secondary schools because homework, etc. was all online. All communication with parents is online. I have nothing but contempt for those tech companies responsible for this child abuse.
At Tebezstub wrote,
And now we have a new generation of teachers entering the profession who grew up in this dystopia and have been trained in DEI-focused universities. Good luck to Western society in the next 20 years or less.
At Deanna Clark K3T wrote,
It's the parents who demand the tech, not the school boards or the heads of private schools. Parents are always behind the times. demanding whatever will bring the most success and future for their kids. My husband was a custodian at a Catholic school for 20 years and had to raise hell to get the antibacterial soap out long after the dangers were made public. Then the same parents demanded full Wi-Fi in every classroom for every child, and to keep the fees coming, the principal agreed. This was 2020, long after the dangers were being proven. Parents are like Victorians, terrified they will have their spinster daughters living at home forever.
As Sophia Wharton 2424 wrote,
I am afraid, just as with everything else, the horse has bolted. Government ignored regulations when parents were pleading about the easy accessibility of porn. But I am not going to completely demonize the internet. As a decades-old adult, I have been able to access invaluable knowledge and information on cultures, sciences, geopolitics, history, and hidden knowledge which I may never otherwise have had access to. Because even the written word in books in many cases was designed to control perception. Dependence on that limits a society to the ideas which can direct their thinking and actions towards falsehoods or half-truths, which can cause them to act against their own best interests, in the interest of the many, whilst empowering the few. The internet has opened the minds of citizens to the world at large. Different opinions and perspectives. The experience of some whose lives would be alien to many otherwise. We can direct our children's path if our main purpose is to protect them and offer them healthy, life-enhancing and factual alternatives. But not brainwash them through systems which seek to provide a fictional and biased outlook on the world.
At Raddenmudley 5594 wrote,
Well presented. I like the arsenic bit. I'm both a science educator as well as a mindfulness coach. We are in the same battle against undervaluing what we naturally have and need to learn how to use. Thank you for this.
At Noah Wilson Thai 5 BP wrote,
Sophie is missing the point completely that technology is not the victim, but rather how we control, manage and secure it. Technology in the classroom is actually democratizing as it gives the underprivileged the ability to travel visually as compared to the privileged. She says that there are no studies, but there are plenty of use cases like Khan Academy. There is merit in few statements, but the bulk content is broad brush to slanted tech, because she comes from a legacy generation.
At Bundita 2068 wrote,
The guy was not a top 1% in social media. Of course the girl ignored him. He was invisible. The guy did not want to get arrested when saying hi, as if considered unattractive data shows 95 to 99.9% of men are not desirable to women, then he is a creep rap star toxic abusive man. So he rather swipes 1,000 times to get a match with a fake bot who does not reply. Why AI? Because it makes the rich more richer and make more consumer zombies and not have to pay human employees anymore. D.
At Icers 6840 wrote,
I just attended an EdTech conference for teachers last month. She is telling the truth and on point when it comes to screen time. It is sad to see most preschoolers with an iPad. I also do not like AI for students. It makes them lazy and stupid.
At Luzeb 4171 wrote,
My son is at a Russell Group uni studying computer engineering. He insists on writing notes with paper and pen, not on a screen. To read from books. Lecturers who are present, not on Teams meetings, and use a whiteboard for presenting information. He had an exam on Moodle. It crashed. It's ironic he is studying AI, but learns best via traditional techniques.
At Alan Batten 05G wrote,
4 minutes in. Reflects my experience in the Sofia, Bulgaria, metro, the airport, the plane to UK, the Gatwick airport, the hotel restaurant, London trains and buses. I then see a program which suggests AI is becoming greater than the total intelligence of the human population. So what is the solution?
At Mickle Carberry 9520 wrote,
As a parent of children just before mobile cell phones and just before smartphones, I missed the need to restrict my children's time on screens. And as such, I didn't realize how pernicious the devices have become over the last 20 years for children. Sophie presents such a good case for restricting device time for children. I then examine my time here on YT Podcast with so many fascinating topics to listen to and comment on, and ask how many books have I got on my bookcase that have somehow not been read yet.
At David Lockett X4B wrote,
I am 78 years young and can confirm that the world was a better place before we had computers and the internet. I must, however, admit that I have learnt much from the internet. I have especially learned how dumb most people are. The first thing that should be banned are garbage YouTube videos such as this one.
At Heaven Percy Sudi wrote,
When I was in preteen age, all we had was TV and radio. There was no daytime TV unless you wanted to watch test screen or static. Even then, teachers and other pedagogues constantly warned us about spending time watching TV. Some kids had computer games or video games, but before Nintendo, those were rarity and teachers warned us about those too. At the time, recommendation was no more than 3 to 4 hours TV in a week, and that was for adults. Children were encouraged to read books, the ones written on paper, and play outside, but of course there was TV. Just about every household and children watched it too, but hardly ever more than an hour or two at evenings. I can't even imagine a childhood where children spend 7 hours a day just watching a phone screen. In my country, they are now preparing a law preventing pupils using mobile phones in schools. Hopefully it's not too late.
At Coffee Break 100 wrote,
749 Australia wasn't the first country to limit children's screen time. 801 all civilized countries will follow suit. Which countries aren't civilized to you? This just reeks of colonialism. Yuck.
At Bruno Crow 3958 wrote,
It's all about the money. The tech barons poured money into EdTech, hoping for obese profits. They couldn't get any credible research to show that it was anything other than harmful and negative, so they fell back on promoting it by saying, "Do kids love it, or it's just like Facebook?" Like that's inherently a good thing. Our only chance of salvation is maximal pushback against tech, and especially screen tech. This will be quite a ed.
At Wombat Y7T wrote,
It has been stated in literature about the technocrats immersing humanity in a constant environment of inexhaustible pleasure. Technology provides that pathway, in particular with the latest 3D virtual reality audiovisual experience. This is the evil side of technology that has been touted a solution to overpopulation. We are seeing that now, with young men in particular shunning women and losing themselves in video games and online pornography.
At Cat and Dowell Music wrote,
My 3-year-old was turning into someone we didn't like through watching TV, and especially Peppa Pig. Crazy tantrums when we would turn the TV off, and we were getting too dependent on it as a way to keep her entertained. It was really hard for us to wean her off, but it only took 3 or 4 days before she stopped asking for any screen time. And as tempting as it is sometimes to rely on TV as a babysitter, we have held strong for about 6 months now.
At Denimali 7659 wrote,
It has gotten to the point that we cannot be functional human beings if we don't have a smartphone. I was an avid reader. I could finish a book in 2 days. Now I can read half a book in a year. It is that bad. I would have no interaction with the world if I didn't go to work. When I was unemployed, all I had was my phone for 24 HRS. I can't even go to the toilet without it, and I can't do chores without setting up a playlist of videos first. We are lost. Nobody dates anymore, kids don't play outside, people don't talk to one another. Crazy.
At Renee Roberts 3319 wrote,
SBIVA and Amens. I am appalled that my kindergartner has a 1 CHRMEBOK in her classroom. I hope with all hope that we will hit pause and rewind. I am sharing this with my school board, superintendent, county office of ed, and my state representatives. My immense gratitude for this excellent speech.
At Vitrax 662 wrote,
The toxicity of so-called high tech, especially social media, has already destroyed humanity. It's truly sad. But those who use tech wisely will benefit tremendously from it.
At Nelson Atwood wrote,
Excellent point and well presented. I agree entirely with what is said, although I have to admit, I feel a bit guilty agreeing while watching the presentation. On a screen.
At Sunitadwarka 347 wrote,
I want to bring your attention towards one issue. When we send children to school, teacher teach them. Subconsciously, they think only teacher is knowledgeable, not parents or elder sister or brother or relatives. They listen to only teacher and peer groups, not parents. We lose our children slowly. What solution? Even Elon Musk have lose his son. Think how powerful is image of teacher. I have faced this problem in childhood with my sister. When I done that class, I wanted to teach my sisters, but they were not ready to listen or accept. We are not understanding printing on mind of children and people. One scout, always scout.
At IHS Deus wrote,
The modern man is no longer a unity, but a confused bundle of complexes and nerves. With no underlying unifying philosophy, the frustrated soul may say to itself, I sometimes think there are two of me, a living soul and a PhD. Such a man projects his own mental confusion to the outside world and concludes that, since he knows no truth, nobody can know it. His own skepticism, which he universalizes into a philosophy of his view of life, throws him back more and more upon those powers lurking in the dark, dark caverns of his unconscious. He changes his philosophy as he changes his clothes. Nothing is more tragic to a civilization than the loss of its tradition. A man who is not at peace with himself will not be at peace with his neighbor. Therefore, the solution out of this post-COVID decivilizing generation that has massed in only 5 years, if not destroyed now, will self-destruct entire humanity in next 5 years, because the speed of civilization movement, which is basic human framework, is moving at unprecedented changing speed, never seen before our forefathers. Humanity, sadly, will not know itself by 2030.
At Jeff Walther 2023 wrote,
Thankfully, my child is out of grade schooling into grad school, but while in the school's clutches I kept, thinking that putting lessons online was like setting a child in the middle of the largest amusement park in the world, and then telling him to study. As a parent, even if you want to control screen time, the schools put the homework and increasingly the lectures online. That's right, teachers don't even use class time to teach anymore. What are they using it for? If it is homework time, then why do they send increasing amounts of destructive homework? What parent has time to sit behind his kid 100% of the time he's working on schoolwork and watch the screen nonstop? There's zero evidence that homework improves academic outcome before the age of high school, and only moderate evidence at that point. What happened to the teacher lectures for 15 to 30 minutes, and then the children quietly work on an assignment for the remainder of the time? Incentive to work productively is that anything you don't finish is homework.
As Sanamram 9802 wrote,
The truth is that for children not to use phones, parents and their entire ecosystem should not use it. But majority of adults are not willing to give up to their addiction need. Children only copy adults. We need a massive revolution where every member of society should reduce the phone usage, especially in front of children. Are you willing to put that effort?
Asai 1 Mexiv wrote,
As a teacher of IT, this is difficult to watch. Absolute respect to the posed argument. I have seen the achievements, the disasters, the potential, and the results of the use of IT in education. My concerns have remained constant over the past 32 years. The wonderment of technology lies in the situation where it enhances learning. To suggest otherwise would do a disservice to progress. When used as anything more than a bow in the quiver of education is irresponsible and supports what is being suggested.
Adalayam wrote,
Does anyone remember having green screen Macintosh computers in high school? The things we're now arguing for and against seem so far removed from the excitement and intention from that time.
A Faith Hope 1257 wrote,
The negative use of technology is so tragic. For all the prayer warriors around the world, let's hope and pray that this evil will end. It is affecting every area of our lives. We need to wake UP.
At Sunny Day 6465 wrote,
So happy to hear a sane voice educating people. I have been afraid for our children for some time. As my mother told me and my siblings back in the late 50s and early 60s, go outside. She could not stand the TV hypnotizing us. We were in Florida, so it was always nice outside. We never regretted it once she got us out.
At Elizabeth Heyer 8950 wrote,
In 2020, I found out kids don't know how to sign their names anymore. Not print, but sign. That was my wake-up call to see that the education of our youth is decreasing rapidly.
At Adradrum 9805 wrote,
One of the hidden incentives for all this is human capital markets. Capturing children's lives on data dashboards can allow them to be the fodder for social impact investing products.
At Janet Teberens 8730 wrote,
On a dating app, you aren't only looking for appearance, but for information about a person. That person has thought about how to communicate the most important information about him or herself. When you don't think that person has much in common with you, you let it go. Now suppose those people on the bus started to talk. One of them discovered within a minute that she really doesn't like the other person. What to do? She can't go sit anywhere else, that would be rude. She can leave the bus and wait for another one, but that will take extra time. That's why people use apps. It's more efficient than talking to random strangers in a bus. So, that was a bad example. Didn't watch the rest of the video.
As Sashavjas wrote,
So just to lay it out, our little boy's attitude started to stink in his later toddler years. Having up to 10 tantrums a day, and even though I limited his screen time to the same hours that I used to have as a child, 4 p.m. minus 5.10 p.m., he would want TV upon waking, whinge for it all day, and then stopped wanting to do anything once it was on. Turning it off became a huge deal and would ruin our bedtime routine. So we straight up got rid of the TV. Sounds drastic, but even having it off didn't make a difference. The thing was omnipresent, and so we made up some story that the TV had caught fire, but our boy's fire engine had bravely come to the rescue and put out the flames and saved us. He was utterly delighted at the story and still tells it to visitors. The oddest thing is that once the TV had gone, he didn't even miss it. He might have mentioned it once or twice, but we simply retold the story to his delight, and that was it. His tantrums decreased to 1 a day, and I know that's one too many for many, but for us, you've no idea of the relief, and he became an all-round more joyful child. I had always wanted a TV-less home, and my husband was always reticent, but now he agrees they bring no value to our lives. We'll likely get a projector for family movies once he's older and a family desktop computer that we all share 80s style. And as a side note, the vibe of the house has changed dramatically. Our TV area has become a gallery wall, which I love curating and changing the pictures, and we listen to more music. I'm determined this will be permanent. But honestly, reading the comments here, I'm more than certain we've done the right thing.
At Mattia Dizzard 7431 wrote,
A waiter at a restaurant told me kids are placing broken phones in teachers' containers, and the kids pocket the real working phones, so the school no phone policy isn't working, then send the kids home to the father for disciplinary action. Is what America needs to do, the way millennials in a black home. We grew up knowing if we messed up, our parents had a belt waiting for us at home. These new kids don't have that, cause government CPS said if you hit your kids, CPS is taking them, so a government CPS helped create the problem.
At Carl Bredig wrote,
The mobile phone ban in South Australian schools has been in place for a year now and is making a positive difference, with 54% fewer behavioral issues during terms 1 and 2 2024 compared to terms 1 and 2 2023.
At Georgina Bravo 4508 wrote,
Schools had the idea that since children like screens, they would learn more. The problem is that children don't like just anything. They like to play certain games and to see certain things. For them, history could be as boring in their iPad that in their book. We have to change the way we teach, not the devices we use.
At Jojo BH1PU wrote,
Wonderful speech. I am so relieved to hear the topic of tech in schools being addressed with concern. Parents need to exercise their ability to engage with their children and stand against trends they feel are detrimental.
At Mark Rodriguez 7792 wrote,
Smart common sense, lovely lady. Makes sense and very concerning, thought-provoking information regarding our children, and of course realizing how I and many around me are becoming addicted to these devices, which I do use to minister with myself.
At Lenny Weinrib 9430 wrote,
It is troubling how this dangerous path is not getting more attention, as this is a real threat to humanity and is no scare scam. Sadly, people are not seeing through this technocracy festival. Thanks to Sophie for an excellent and urgent speech.
At Adam PV4QN wrote,
This is actually so lame and hypocritical. First, children who don't know how to use technology will underperform those who do. And second, I hate all this adults can use phones, social media, but ban for children. And not under 18, under 16 only, right? Because you know the 17, 18-year-olds would riot if you tried to do that. And you know the adults would vote out any person who did that to them, so attack people who can't fight back against your anti-tech agenda. I'm 21, but I have enough brain cells. No, this is just plain wrong. It's not to help children. It's to take even more power from them by controlling their flow of information.
At Deluxe Demure wrote,
Kids do what they see. Nice try, parents. Since when did having a kid mean you were automatically a healthy, responsible adult? Mom has 3,543 Facebook friends to keep liking her profile. Dad number 3 is on a Tinder hookup across town. Kids do what they see. Nice try, parents.
At Mirage79 wrote,
Excellent speech. This tech is a social experiment and our kids are suffering. My son attended one of these progressive schools that introduced iPads and tablet-style learning for all subjects without parental consultation or consent. His academic ability was stunted. Where he used to love to read and draw, he now wastes hours being antisocial, absorbed in the social media garbage on his devices, alienating himself and distorting his perception of reality. He is now nearly 19, and I fear for his future and the damage he is doing to himself, unable to properly socialize for his age.
At NMRE8 wrote,
I so agree. Nice to hear someone speaking out about this.
I read an article in UK newspaper last year where teachers got together and insisted no phones in school. I believe it was elementary, maybe middle school. The whole atmosphere changed, the teachers said, where the kids were laughing and talking together on the playground. I felt glad to hear this.
At Mel_Keyser wrote,
Thank you, Sophia. A very brilliant speech that tells a very insightful deliverance of all the problems of too much technologies in our life. Hope the world realistically realize how to solve these problems in the digital age.
At Datsun Worldwide 3238 wrote,
Technically, boomers should have ended renormalization on heels of Reconstruction and Reconciliation launching optimization era. We didn't have to wait on AI nepotism. We had he technological know-how, just lacked willingness. Classical American descendants also negotiate and named silent and greatest who nuked temporarily waved. Mastership granting liberal power to the state in order to accommodate Magna Carta states who at that time very Nietzscheite wasn't willing cried to eccentric. Europe and even UC wasn't ready to move online. One last reality check each to its field /tribes/scalars was moved to space mapping formalism across these vectors where everyone went back to their denominations corners to philosophize around the edges was accommodated. We didn't make Telegram party line online abstract transparent marketplaces, we agreed moved them to brick wall. In New York, London, Paris, Frankfurt, bribed Indochina, Asia, building stock exchange in Hong Kong, Malaysia did the self-destroyed congruent enlightenment states goals industrialized world removed all excuses tolerated the Amish in us all as teacher arguing against calculators in class elevated speciation international Western global consciousness belleting the countless presbyters who clean up the mess made by the world healing. It's undesirable who fled such censorship witnessed in EU and America in this aftermath of moving our birthright tech to Tier 1 for an extra 50 years. You attacked us or denied us our Sir Bacon mapped Z-axis bill of Raya DNA until it was exhausted in every avenue. We ended the Pony Express door-to-door Sears Roboic J.C. Penney's products moved to condensed living ziggurat models in order to accommodate and mature needs and demands. Jethro Tull's plow was not just meant for farmers. Overreactionary response in seeking free speech echo. Measure above all else on command on par knowledge and access to intellectual property tools Ben Franklin's. Horsepower utility CPU serfdom programmed by pragmatic common sense subjectivism is not taboo anymore. Evidence in our world brings all on par. John Henry versus machine both lost. It is the substrate tracks that still remains. This is our internet kingdom tool to ground society's eyes sensors on every scale computing plus/fine-tuned variation between. Online Nation is philo phase change state of publishers union copywriters are on the clock to merge into online coups, competing for capital where we are family. Individual masters subcontract out skills, trade ideas, owner operators, or this it channel here in the corner of chat are the messy details, fringe few special interest, right where it belongs in dark corners, calculators, interactive tools for parental teaching librarian. Hands-on multi-skill set, multitasking in situ high-tech Victorian homesteads spreading out medium density. Quadrupled logistics door-to-door products where our garage is not filled with horses, but 3D printers, CNC machine making many of our local needs and demands. You all know the model 1900s structuralism might very been an American century, but it was defined by European definitions many that our ancestors fled in the first place. The compromise is now in those corners from now on.
At Rust Shoe 5068 wrote,
Analog hasn't gone away, you know.
It inhabits digital devices such as iPhones in the guise of the on/off button and the volume control, and in the touchscreen function. As well, there are for the human voice analog to digital converters. An electrical engineer about 8 years ago on the radio, I recall, said that by 1980 or so, these converters were made small enough that they made the mobile phone possible in terms of being small enough too. If kids knew this, they might drop their disdain for the mechanical world and gravitate towards it, using digital less and less. MAGA. Make analog great again.
At KCC 879 wrote,
And yet, high teachers have been seeing the damages for decades, while those of us that try to limit screens and yet it has been made compulsory to use tech in the classroom with absolutely no evidence of their effectiveness in learning, and nothing was done. The harms have been done, are irreversible in my opinion.
At Sharon Washington 8150 wrote,
The old ways will never die. Unless youlet them. Brilliant speech by a well-educated and fluent-speaking woman. How refreshing. There is China making all these gadgets for pennies and big tech industries selling them for big bucks. That is why technology is pushed 24/7. It's all about big bucks, folks, not people's welfare.
At Late Hair 111 wrote,
Both children and adults have a major problem with this. One day, no one will communicate except on a screen. I've been against this for a lot of years, but thought I was in an incredible minority.
At Kristen Oren wrote,
We have to keep talking about this, not to just lawmakers and world leaders and educators, but our neighbors, our friends, our families. As a former educator and school leader, I can attest that teachers and school administrators know this, but we fight against ignorance when it's the parents on the schoolhouse steps demanding their child's right to tech. Parents these days hate anything that tries to discipline their children, and education is literally a discipline. Additionally, big tech and their influence on state lawmakers is great, but honestly, that's an easier battle than parental ignorance.
At Rust Shoe 5068 wrote,
Sometimes I make a habit of rolling up a newspaper and sticking it in the back pocket of my jeans when out and about, just to make a point. Just like old times.
At Watchman Today My Take wrote,
I wonder if technology, for all Sophie says is right, is not a better alternative to Marxist teacher indoctrination. Even though the propaganda is now forcing its way into the tech programs we use, it is still less so than in the general teacher-based curriculum. I think what our children are more at danger from is the forced speech and increasingly forced thinking that our children are being indoctrinated through. And though safeguarding sounds good, I no longer think that it is safe for our children. The latest attacks by New Labour, our National Socialist government, have carried out on education are a dangerous case in point and exacerbation of the problems. The Orwellian Newspeak Child Protection Bill was really an attack on the freedom of schools, pupils, and parents. It seeks to force all schools, no matter what difference they may have in their apparent governance, to include certain aspects of what I think is really dangerous, confusing, and damaging indoctrination. Just like the FBI in the US was weaponized against the people, other three-letter ideas and now threatening our freedom and mental health, that is to say CRTDEI and ESG, especially as pushed from the WEF and WHO, etc. This is the end of the long march through the corridors. Our beloved teachers are now neo-Marxist bots threatening and endangering our children with all kinds of horrors, from the idea that the planet is going to bust into flames and it might be better if we stopped our use of resources completely, to the idea that we might have been born into the wrong bodies, and if we will only subject ourselves to have our bodies altered to match our supposed inner selves, all our problems would be solved. It is just a pity that these procedures normally end in infertility and other medical life-limiting issues. To the idea that whiteness is an unremediable original sin and non-whiteness means you will never be able to succeed in a world of white privilege. These are the ideas now being pushed by the responsible adults, our beloved teachers. We are now forced to leave our children in the hands of, and to make sure that more children are put in the hands of the most indoctrinated left-wing teachers. We saw Labor's other attack on the freedom of education, with taxes now being added to private tuition fees, ensuring that private school funds are reduced and children's education will be disrupted as children whose parents can no longer afford the fees are forced to risk their children in the dismal and damaging state sector.
At Michael Clark 4175 wrote,
And then there's us. The 40, 50, and 60-year-olds whose work involves sitting over a keyboard staring at one or more screens all day long, and for whom a break from the big screens on the desk usually involves a mindless scroll on social media delivered by the small screen in the pocket. The drudgery of agricultural and industrial labor has been replaced by the drudgery of the so-called information age, the output of which was, well, information much of which was never needed in the first place. We have been amused to death, as someone once said. And now, galloping over the horizon towards us, the slavering hound of AI, a god that has commanded more reverential and unsubstantiated hyperbole than any of its predecessors. Big Tech has talked up Big Tech and managed to get everyone on board. All that will happen now is that it will become even more adept at hypnotizing us, and we will be even more desensitized to the world around us.
At Raindrop 9675 wrote,
Many children have no clue what nature means. They can't differentiate between reality and videos they watch. They can't read, can't do math. They can't think logically. They have no clue how social life really works. They can't do easy sports. And that's the worst, don't have genuine fantasy and creativity. All is influenced by AI videos and computer games, Hollywood and Netflix. They are not able to really understand and use language in a flexible way because they don't know how words are defined. They're oversensitive and too easy to frustrate and can't deal with or even name the emotions they feel. They are like fallen leaves carried by the wind. No clue what to do with their brain. Easily brainwashed by the stuff that makes feel good. Computers and videos have nothing to do in children's rooms. Children have to do it with own brains and hands. Many believe a child is a small adult, but that's wrong. The things they don't learn as children will be extremely hard to learn as an adult. They're time windows in brain development of children and teenagers. It's fully developed at the age of 20. This entertainment and social media stuff is the downfall of the youth. Fast forward the time. Goodbye to the future.
At Stray Tarnish 9443 wrote,
Maybe the reason the kids are so messed up these days is because the people who are having the kids. Shouldn't I mean where are all these trans kids coming from if gay people only sleep with other people that can't make babies together?
At White Shirt and Line wrote,
We do unschooling for my daughter. She is having a great childhood and is a happy girl. Most of her friends have 2 to 3 tests a week, plenty of homework, and spend 8 hours a day in the classroom, learning mostly useless stuff just so that parents can go to work, which most don't enjoy either.
At Erdling Schwendinger 3604 wrote,
More and more Elthers do unschooling and free learning. It's booming to let the child live and learn at home in the family and within friends circle. Children got a business thing for Elthers can go work. Work, work. It's us say no to just do a job, industry and money and business for. Where's war business within? It's on to say yes and do natural. In the gym again. Like Mother Nature made us for.
At Angela Short 1331 wrote,
It's so much easier to indoctrinate using tech. They'll use classroom managers and learning with earbuds. This dumbing down is from the pit of hell.
At 19 Battle Hill wrote,
Silicon Valley, where all this tech comes out of, don't allow their children to go near the tech they create. They have their children in schools that have no tech. The children learn to write cursive, and they read from textbooks. This woman is so right.
At Angela Short 1331 wrote,
This is so sad. I'm heading for the hills, going bush. I'm glad I never got a smartphone. For me or my children. They're doing just fine.
At F5C5C wrote,
The last healthy vestiges for sound creative teaching and learning are now in countries and regions, and true oases yet untouched by the homogeneous use of these devices, and by that, ironically flies in the face of tech and could be of real benefit to the health and well-being of their communities comparable to the progressive West. Those irrefutably, utterly sad statistics speak as much, hence keen interest, moreover specifically of these places and cultures for an approach of ethical teaching that still respects and honors the deeper wisdoms as well. Protect our children. Be present with your child.
At Eric Kristen 2623 wrote,
There are many compelling arguments against high tech. The biggest is that it is turning human beings into isolated zombies detached from all that is natural. Another is that it has been forced upon us. A total fascism. So anyone that is not tech savvy or finds computers unbearably dull and unsuited to their talents is still forced to use them or be on the breadline. This is totally unethical.
And Mark 089 wrote,
It's weird to realize that so much of what we believe about ourselves isn't actually ours. It's shaped by childhood, society, and experiences we never questioned. Kizano's mind decoding helped me break free from those limiting beliefs, and honestly, it's been one of the most eye-opening experiences of my life.
At Tengatenko 5942 wrote,
We have global culture dehumanization profiting tech companies build zombie culture. Thank you for shedding light in this dark world. Cheers to Australia, Sweden, for pioneers in protecting our children.
At Steiner Brun 3852 wrote,
20 years ago, I sat in a park. A 5-year-old girl, pushing a sparkling new bike, entered with joy etched on her face. A young man followed, boredom on his. His phone rang. He stopped and answered it as his face grew a smile. The little girl stopped too, her face suddenly expressionless. She knew the drill. Life was on pause.
The Hadrian Monk wrote,
Without my smartphone, I wouldn't have had the pleasure of listening to this excellent and enlightening speech. But I'm no child. I am 56 and lucky enough having been brought up in completely different times. I am childless, but I wonder how we will be able to solve this problem. As one part of the problem also lies in the families. Today, both parents have to work, and when they're back home, they're too exhausted, and many of them leave their children to the care of digital devices. So we also need changes in work life and society.
And Monica Huerta 4405 wrote,
My family and I traveled for vacation in summer during much time and dinner time. We were at the buffet of the resort, and 99% of the families with children were always eating, having their children watching a movie or playing games. My daughter was one of the very few getting her own food, chatting with us, and enjoying a real family time. I felt sad for those kids and parents.
At John Jackson 444 wrote,
This discussion should have happened back when Steve Jobs was hailed for inventing something that of course he never did. Apple has a great deal of blame to bear for making this addictive, and rich people's children go to schools with no computers or phones allowed.
At Lauren Wozni 2901 wrote,
I've always thought we face a real risk of a future dark age if we continue to allow tech to think for us and do for us. It benefits very few in the long run, and in my view, will inevitably self-combust if allowed to replace human intellect and engagement in society.
At Petrushka Tams 8125 wrote,
A book can be interesting, but it's someone's point of view. It's important to explore our own point of view and learn our children the real history, not the garbage that they give children for the last decades.
At Rodalot wrote,
Monkey see, monkey do. In a world of rules for thee, and not for me. My parents didn't need devices to be narcissistic, and were bad enough back then. Eater, we need less school, not more. We need whole body education, not little bodies fossilizing in the shape of a chair.
At Brian Smith 9231 wrote,
Don't forget, though, children desire to imitate their parents from a very early age. The children also subconsciously watch as their parents are subjugated by social media. Does that create desire to be subjugated by electronic hallucinations also?
At Brian Smith 9231 wrote,
If the UK has gaggle in every school, as in the USA, all this is being monitored by a less than perfect AI. It has been for many years now. Plus, if you have noticed that because of the tech used to learn or retain, only around 50% of what is read on a screen as opposed to 100% when read in print. The exact same information. Why, maybe if you care you can look at different studies for the sake of your children.
Philip Cook J1D wrote,
I'm sorry, but people have freedom to do whatever they want to do as long as they ain't breaking our laws and physically hurting someone else. That is our God-given rights. We wasn't born to be ruled over. We was born to be free to view the world how we want to and to live our own lives the way we want to live.
At Volathamicos, Lagonas 8445 wrote,
The extended family is the best resource that anyone can have children learn so much even before they enter. The school arena stories and story time provide food for the brain, soul, and heart. The elderly have purpose and feel love, warmth, and tenderness, helping keep at bay a great deal of problems, loneliness and depression, just to name two. Paper, pencil. The book encourage imagination and the love of knowledge.
At Margaretha Wend 4187 wrote,
Sophie Winkleman is a woman after my own heart. I feel that these are the death of relationships and making people dumber. And I see so many parents no interacting with THIERKIDS.
Estella Redman 33 wrote,
How easy it is to pinpoint all the problems to technology. Of course, parents have nothing to do with it. It's when screens replace parents then the problems develop.
At Premnath Chakravarti wrote,
Great to hear this. I am glad there are people in this world with good intentions, thoughts, and are able to say this on a great platform. So clearly, eloquently, and directly the speaker has expressed anyone can understand, except for people who have vested interest. Corporate profit-making, lobby groups advocating and pushing their agendas for profit are truly destroying the new generations, who clearly will not stand up and make changes for this. I hope good efforts in practice are implemented rather than destroy our generation to critically and creatively think. The process of thinking, questioning, human relationships are so crucial part of learning.
At Runnerbean 5858 wrote,
How I wish I could share this with a mother whose 2 children are at special schools. due to factors she had no control over. She has been a single working mother, and by the time she finishes work and her children are home, she is unavailable because of technology fixation. She uses technology to try and keep them quiet while she tunes out on her digital device. They want to tell her about their day, but she is relaxing on her device. There is a father present, but because he has missed out on their critical formative years, he is having to rebuild his relationship with them. And so, there is effectively no discipline. The mom has had to parent her children under difficult circumstances and feels guilty that she has no quality time with them, so allows them to behave atrociously no matter who is there.